Hello everyone, welcome back once again to this educational channel on biology. We'll be studying Biology Form 5, Chapter 4 in this video, and the subtopic is 4.4, Phytoremediation. So humans use plants as a source of food, medicine, and also as construction materials. Plants also provide us with oxygen and also with clothing materials. But do you know that plants can be used in water and soil treatment to reduce pollution and improve the quality of water and soil? Let's find out more about how plants are used in water and soil treatment. The learning standards for today's lesson are as follows. Number 1, after this lesson, we should be able to define phytoremediation. Number 2, be able to explain the uses of phytoremediation in life by giving examples of phytoremediation. And thirdly, conduct experiments to study the effectiveness of phytoremediation plants in controlling water pollution and soil pollution. So we'll be discussing a few experiments here about phytoremediation. Let's discuss the importance of phytoremediation, or the function or the use of phytoremediation. So nowadays, a lot of wastewater is produced from domestic, agricultural, and industrial activities. So this wastewater is water that contains a lot of heavy metals, high concentration of heavy metals like lead, mercury, and chromium, and other pollutants. And it is not suitable for use by humans. So this picture shows you a factory releasing the wastewater or effluents into a lake or a river, into a body of water, right? So it will pollute the water and cause the death of organisms. Also, it's not suitable for humans to use it or for human consumption. So if the water supply, if it is untreated, it will be filled with heavy metals and pollutants, and it will be toxic, right? So here we see an environmental engineer testing the quality of the water in this river, okay, which is highly polluted, and the water looks very dark and also dirty. So we need to come up with new methods of wastewater treatment, such as phytoremediation, to overcome the lack of clean water and also to overcome water pollution in the lakes and rivers, and also to reduce the rising cost of water treatment. So phytoremediation is one of the ways that we can tackle this issue, okay? That we can reduce the problem of water pollution. Now, in phytoremediation, which is a type of wastewater treatment, plants are used, okay? So phytoremediation uses plants to absorb and eliminate the heavy metals and harmful nutrients like ammonia from the water. Now, phytoremediation can also be used to eliminate heavy metals from soil also, not just from water, okay? But here we take the example of water. So through phytoremediation, the water in a pond or lake or river can be improved. The quality of the water can be improved, and it will contain less heavy metals and pollutants. All right, so that the quality of water is better and safer for use and for consumption. So here are the notes for the question, why is phytoremediation important? All right, just read through very quickly. The environment and human health can be badly polluted if wastewater containing heavy metals and pollutants from domestic agricultural, breeding and industrial activities is not treated. So this wastewater can pollute the bodies of water like rivers and lakes. And water supply will be filled with heavy metals such as lead, mercury, chromium, cadmium, all right, from industrial activities and also from agricultural activities and other pollutants. Now here the word domestic means from the home, all right. So from the homes also through the washing of clothes and other activities, a lot of pollutants can land up in the water, in the water sources like rivers and lakes. So management and wastewater treatment is important to overcome the lack of clean water, reduce water pollution, and reduce the increasing cost of water treatment. To overcome these problems, phytoremediation method is one of the alternatives in wastewater treatment by eliminating heavy metals from the water and trapping harmful nutrients and microorganisms. Next, the definition of phytoremediation. Right, this one we have to remember. Memorize the definition. Phytoremediation is one of the treatment methods which uses plants, all right, plants like sunflower plant, for the purpose of degradation, extraction, or elimination of harmful pollutants. Textbook use the word pollute substances. So actually we call these substances involved in pollution, we call them pollutants. So harmful pollutants from soil and water. Okay, so the plants can be used to degrade. Degradation means to break down the harmful substances. Extraction means to take out from the soil or water, and elimination means to get rid of it. So plants can do all this to the pollutants. Some plants, okay, are able to absorb these harmful substances, to degrade them, extract them out from the soil, or eliminate them. So it is a technology using various plants to treat contaminated soil and water. The basic principle behind phytoremediation is that some plant roots, for example, the sunflower, okay, it has roots that can absorb certain pollutants such as zinc and copper, heavy metals like zinc and copper, and it can store them in their leaves and stems. Okay, so these plants that can accumulate a lot of these heavy metals, ammonia and so forth, they are called hyperaccumulators. Hyper means very extreme, accumulators, because they can take up all these heavy metals in high concentrations into their plant bodies, right? So there are these plants that are called hyperaccumulators, which are very helpful to us in order to extract the unwanted heavy metals from the soil and also other substances. So the word phytoremediation comes from the word phyton, meaning plant. Okay, phyto meaning has something to do with plants, and remediate or remediation. Now remediate means to repair, to improve a situation. So we use these plants to repair or so-called improve the condition of the soil and water. Okay, degradation means breakdown, and hyperaccumulators are plants that can absorb large amounts of contaminants and pollutants, either from soil or from water. So for sunflowers, right, they absorb a lot of zinc and copper. They can absorb zinc and copper from the soil. So here we're going to discuss a few uses of phytoremediation in life. Firstly, the plant called the sunflower, right? We are all familiar with sunflowers, with the yellow flowers that always turn towards the sunlight, right? Now the scientific name is Helianthus anus, right? So sunflowers are used for remediation of soil. Example is the soil that was polluted by explosion of the nuclear plant in Chernobyl, Russia, right? So many years ago, this nuclear plant in Chernobyl exploded and released a lot of radiation, right? Radioactive substances into the soil and the environment. So today, these sunflowers are grown there in the soil in order to absorb and eliminate heavy metals like zinc, copper, chromium, lead, and nickel from the soil, and they can also absorb radioactive substances like cesium and strontium. Okay, so after they have absorbed these substances into the plant body, then these plants will be extracted or taken out, and they will be disposed of in a proper way. Okay, so sunflowers are very useful to absorb and eliminate heavy metals and radioactive substances. For example, in areas where there are nuclear explosions, even in another place in Japan, which we call Fukushima, right, where there was also the explosion of a nuclear plant during a tsunami. The second species of plant that can be used in phytoremediation is Eichhornia crassipes, or water hyacinth. Now, phytoremediation treatment uses not only land plants but also aquatic plants that can absorb heavy metals and nutrients contained in wastewater. So these heavy metals and nutrients are produced through industrial processes and also through agricultural practices. For example, the use of fertilizers can cause the release of ammonium ions, okay, into the river and ponds and lakes. So all these heavy metals and nutrients, when mixed with water, will form the wastewater that is not suitable for use by humans. Thus, this type of water has to be treated, and the heavy metals and nutrients have to be removed. So Eichhornia crassipes, or water hyacinth, is an aquatic plant that is used in phytoremediation because it has long roots that are very dense that can accumulate heavy metals such as copper and lead in the water. So it will take up this copper and lead into its plant body, in the leaves and the stem, and later on these plants have to be disposed of properly in a safe way. Now, one advantage of using these plants is that it can reproduce quite fast in the river, right? So we can have a lot of these plants to absorb the heavy metals at a fast rate. So once the plants have accumulated these heavy metals, they can also be harvested. Sometimes they are harvested, meaning to say that the heavy metals may be extracted from the plants for use later on. Sometimes the plant is just disposed of in a safe way. So in this picture, we see the use of Eichhornia crassipes, or water hyacinth, in phytoremediation. And this process of phytoremediation involves lower cost, as no chemicals are used, only plants are used to carry out the process of phytoremediation, or the extraction of heavy metals from the water. Furthermore, this plant breeds very fast in the rivers. Now, so there's uptake and transport of heavy metals from the water into the plant. And the types of heavy metals that are absorbed very effectively by this plant are copper and lead ions. So copper ions are represented by the red spheres, and the lead ions are represented by the purple ones. Okay, so the roots will also take in this copper and lead ions, and also the plant body, right? So after that, the plant can be disposed of, or it can be these heavy metals can be extracted and recycled too for other uses. Next, we come to another water plant or aquatic plant called Pistia stratiotes. Pistia stratiotes. So this is the water lettuce. Just now was water hyacinth, now it's water lettuce here. So the aquatic plants are suitable to treat wastewater. This to treat the wastewater that's produced in a waste plant, and it uses the process of phytoremediation. So you can see the water lettuce here that floats on top of the water, just like the water hyacinth just now. It floats on top of the water. It has a fast growth rate, just like the water hyacinth, and it can accumulate heavy metals and absorb nutrients in wastewater too. Okay, so the word wastewater refers to used water from domestic, agricultural, industrial, and commercial activities and surface runoff. It includes water from homes, right, from the sinks, the toilets, and the water from the washing machines. So now we've discussed three plants, sunflowers, water hyacinth, and water lettuce. And please also take note of their scientific names. Now the fourth plant is called the river water spinach or Eichhornia aquatica, right? So this plant, I'm sure most of us have eaten this plant before. It's called the kangkong, right? In Southeast Asia, and in Malay we call it kangkong, and in Chinese it's known as kong xin chai, right? So this river water spinach lives near the river banks there, or sometimes near the rivers. And the roots of, there are two types, the groundwater spinach and the river water spinach. Now, groundwater spinach are able to absorb mercury from the soil. Okay, so mercury is a heavy metal that is a contaminant and very dangerous to health. So it can absorb this mercury from the soil. So, and the roots of the river water spinach are able to absorb other heavy metals such as cadmium from the water, right? So this is the use of river water spinach in phytoremediation. Now we come to the hot question. What are 3 advantages and 1 disadvantage of using phytoremediation to eliminate pollutants from wastewater as compared to using conventional cleanup technology, where usually chemicals are used to clean up the wastewater? Okay, let's look at the advantages first. So phytoremediation is a treatment method which uses plants to absorb and eliminate harmful pollutants from soil and water. So in that way, no chemical substances are used in phytoremediation. And this is a natural method to treat the soil or water, to reduce the amount of pollutants in them. So the environment is not harmed by any chemical substance because plants are used, right? Plants are grown there to absorb the pollutants. And that's all. And the plants naturally take up the ammonium ions from wastewater for growth, right? So it reduces the amount of ammonium ions in the wastewater. So the cost of treatment using phytoremediation is cheaper, as we don't use chemicals or any special equipment to get rid of the pollutants. Now, thirdly, we use plants which grow on contaminated land, right? So the phytoremediation technique or technology or method preserves the topsoil, the upper part of the soil, prevents erosion because there are plant roots that grip the soil, and maintains the fertility of the soil, right? So because the plants grow on the contaminated land. So this type of treatment helps to preserve the soil. Now the disadvantage, we are supposed to give one disadvantage. So one disadvantage of phytoremediation is that it's limited to the depth occupied by the plant roots. So phytoremediation is limited by how far the plant roots grow downwards, because it's the plant roots that absorb these chemicals, these toxic chemicals and other substances. So plants may also die. This is the second disadvantage. Plants may also die due to the high toxicity of the pollutants in the soil, right? So after accumulating a lot of these toxic substances, the plant themselves may die. And thirdly, affected plant parts which have heavy metals have to be safely disposed of. You cannot just allow them to die there, and then when they rot or decompose, the heavy metals will go back into the soil. So after they have absorbed these heavy metals, we have to get rid of these plants in a safe way, because these plants contain the heavy metals. So now we're going to look at some questions from the textbook. So I've rephrased it here. What is phytoremediation? 3 marks. And state 2 uses of phytoremediation in daily life. So this can be asked in the structured questions or even essay questions. Now, first of all, what is phytoremediation? Phytoremediation is one of the treatment methods which uses plants for the purpose of degradation, that means for the purpose of breaking down the pollutants, extraction to take out the pollutants from the soil water, and elimination to get rid of the pollutants from soil and water. So pollutants include also the heavy metals. Now that is the meaning of phytoremediation, okay, which we have to memorize. So I've broken it down into 3 parts. So 1 mark for each section or each phrase here. So 3 marks. Now, what are the 2 uses of phytoremediation in daily life? So 2 uses of phytoremediation are to treat wastewater by eliminating heavy metals and to trap nutrients and microorganisms. And secondly, to remove heavy metals from the soil, okay, from water and from soil. Let us look at 2 HOTS questions from page 95 of your textbook. So I've summarized the question here. 3C. Why does a farmer who lives near an industrial zone plant water hyacinth, Eichhornia crassipes, in the canal that supplies irrigation water to his plants? So this farmer lives near an industrial zone that may produce industrial wastes that may be removed and deposited in the water, okay, in the water supply. So he planted water hyacinth in the canal, that is the type of drain that supplies irrigation water to his plants. What's the reason for planting the water hyacinth? So as you know, water hyacinth is used in phytoremediation, right? So industrial wastes may seep into the irrigation water. Therefore, the water hyacinth that's planted there can absorb and remove the contaminants from the water. Thus, the water that's pumped out to water the vegetables are free from the contaminants. And we can also add that this technique of treatment of wastewater is called phytoremediation, right? It's good to write down the keyword, phytoremediation. Right, let's go on to question 4. A lake is found to contain high amounts of lead. Suggest one method to solve this problem. And secondly, plan an experiment to test the effectiveness of your method. Right, so take note that the lake has high amounts of heavy metal, that is lead. So how to solve this problem? We can remove the lead by using the phytoremediation method. Okay, so this method can be used by planting water spinach plant or even water hyacinth that can absorb a lot of lead as the phytoremediation agent. Okay, textbook uses water spinach plant, but I would say that water hyacinth plant is also suitable as it can effectively absorb the lead. Now this plant will absorb the lead from the lake water, and thus it will reduce the amount of lead in the water. Then for the experiment to test the effectiveness of your method, which is phytoremediation, we can refer to experiment 4.4, which I will discuss in the next slide. Okay, so let's look at experiment 4.4. Now, experiment 4.4, to study the effectiveness of phytoremediation plants in controlling water pollution. So this is also found in your textbook on this page. Now, the problem statement is, are phytoremediation plants effective in controlling water pollution? Okay, we want to study the effectiveness. So, the aim is to study the effectiveness of phytoremediation plants in controlling water pollution. Now, our hypothesis is that the roots of the common water hyacinth, or Eichhornia crassipes, can absorb ammonia found in lake water, right? So we're going to test out this hypothesis. Our variables are the presence of water hyacinth, so we're going to set up 2 tanks or 2 containers, one with water hyacinth and one without. And the responding variable is the reading of ammonia at the end of the experiment, and the constant variable is the volume of lake water that is poured into each container. For the materials, Eichhornia crassipes or water hyacinths, 10 liters of lake water, 100 ml of 10% ammonium chloride solution, tap water, ammonium test kit. And for the apparatus, we need 2 glass containers with a 5-liter capacity. So the procedure goes like this. First, we wash and remove the dirt and mud from the water hyacinth so that the roots can absorb the ammonia more quickly. Now, fill the 2 glass containers with 5 liters of lake water and label them A and B. So this is your constant variable. For both glass containers, like this one here, we have to fill it with 5 liters of lake water. Okay. Then insert 50 ml of 10% ammonium chloride solution into each container. Okay, so this is to create a condition where there is ammonia or ammonium ions. Record the initial reading of ammonia in both containers using the ammonia test kit. So there's a test kit that we can use to record, to measure the amount of ammonia or concentration of ammonia in the water. Next, put 6 water hyacinth from step 1 into container A. So this is container A, which has 6 water hyacinths. Then container B does not contain any water hyacinths, okay? Only the lake water. Next, number 6, leave both water containers at room temperature. And after 7 days, record the final reading of ammonia in containers A and B. Okay, after 7 days using the ammonia test kit. Next, record the reading of ammonia in a table. So these are the results. Glass container A at the beginning of the experiment, the reading of ammonia is 3. Okay, and for glass container B is also the same, 3. All right, this ammonia is the one that we put into the 2 containers, the ammonium from the ammonium chloride solution. So at the end of the experiment, after 1 week, it was found that glass container A has the reading of 1 unit for the reading of ammonia, okay, in the lake water. And for glass container B, at the end of the experiment, the reading is 3. So here you can see that for glass container B, there was no decrease in the reading of ammonia in the lake water. But for glass container A, the amount of ammonia has been reduced, right? Has decreased from 3 to 1. So let's look at the discussion. The water hyacinths, why must the water hyacinths be washed? So water hyacinths must be washed first to remove all the dirt and soil from the roots in order to help the plant roots to absorb the ammonia more efficiently, right? And secondly, what are 2 plants that can absorb ammonia from the water? 2 other plants. So apart from water hyacinth or Eichhornia crassipes, we can also use lamna species, another type of water plant that floats on the water surface, and hydrilla species, which is a submerged plant, lives inside the water. There are 2 other plants that can help to absorb ammonia from water. Okay, because they take up the ammonia NH3 as the compound of ammonia is taken up, or the ions of ammonium are taken up to be used for growth of the plant. Now, the effect of ammonia, it disrupts the food chain in the aquatic ecosystem. So Number 3 is to explain the negative effects of ammonia in the aquatic or water ecosystem. So excessive ammonia containing nitrogen in lake water leads to eutrophication. Okay, eutrophication is a process where the water becomes rich in nutrients like nitrates and ammonia, and this will cause the excessive growth of algae, right? So algae is a type of organism that can absorb these nitrates and use it for growth, just like for normal plants. So algae then covers the water surface. If you have a lot of ammonia in the water, it will cause algae to grow very fast and cover the water surface completely, and it will limit the layer of algae on top of the water surface will limit light penetration, and so aquatic plants beneath that layer that are submerged in the water will die because they don't have enough light now to carry out photosynthesis. The sunlight at the top is blocked out. It's prevented from reaching the water because of the algae. Then decomposition of dead algae by bacteria also causes oxygen in the water to be used up. So if the aquatic plants submerged in water die, they cannot produce oxygen for the water already through photosynthesis. And then decomposition of dead algae also uses up a lot of oxygen, okay, by the bacteria. It's used up by the bacteria. So in the end, the water, which has a lot of ammonia, will have lack of oxygen. A lot of algae, you contain a lot of algae floating on the surface of the river or lake, but in the water there is a lack of dissolved oxygen. So this will cause the aquatic animals like fishes and other aquatic animals to die due to lack of oxygen for respiration. Okay, so this is the negative effect of ammonia in the aquatic water ecosystem like rivers and lakes. So conclusion is that the hypothesis is accepted because we can see from the results here that the roots of the common water hyacinth can absorb ammonia found in the lake water and reduce the amount of ammonia from 3 at the beginning of the experiment, these 3 units, to 1 unit. Lastly is an experiment to study the effectiveness of phytoremediation plants in controlling soil contamination. Just now was water, now is soil. Okay, so problem statement: are phytoremediation plants effective in controlling soil pollution? Aim: to study the effectiveness of phytoremediation plants in controlling soil contamination. So now we use another plant called the water spinach, okay, which can absorb nutrients such as ammonia in the soil. Right, so instead of using water hyacinth, we're going to use water spinach. So variables: the presence of water spinach in one container and the absence of water spinach in another container. Responding variable: reading of ammonia in the soil at the end of the experiment, and our constant variable here is the mass of black soil. So we're going to plant this water spinach in soil. Okay, this is probably the land water spinach that is used. So the experiment is basically the same as for the first experiment just now, 4.4. Now materials: water spinach, 5 kilograms of food waste, 50 ml of 2M potassium chloride solution, plastic container, 5 kilograms of black soil, distilled water, ammonia test kit, and apparatus is 100 ml beaker, and oven. So procedure: first, flatten a thin layer of 5 kilograms of black soil on a plastic sheet and dry it by using an oven. So we are going to get some black soil, and you've got to weigh it so that the black soil in one container is the same as the other. Put 2.5 kg of black soil in a plastic container and label it as container A. And then the other 2.5 kg of black soil is put into another plastic container and label it as container B. Right? So now we are going to determine the ammonia content of the soil in containers A and B. So using this method, right, this is the method to determine the ammonia content in the soil. Put 7 grams of black soil each from container A and B in different conical flasks. Then mix 50 ml of 2M potassium chloride solution into the conical flask. Shake them. Filter the mixture into a 100 ml beaker. Alright, so after that, put 20 ml of distilled water into the filtrate, right, that contains the potassium chloride. So in that way, you get a filtrate, a solution, or a liquid, and then we determine the concentration of ammonia in the filtrate using the ammonia test kit again. So we don't really have to understand how all this works out, because these are the steps taken to test the ammonia. That's all. Now, mix 2.5 kg of food waste with soil mixture in container A so that the mixture is even. Okay, so now we're going to put in the food waste into the soil mixture. All right, and in container B also we do the same. But for container A, number 7, transfer 20 water spinach stalks into container A, whereas container B is left without water spinach plants at all. So this is the control. Container B is a control. Put the 2 containers in a warm but sheltered area and let these plants grow also. After that, water the plants. Put an equal amount of water every day into the containers A and B. That means we are watering the plants. After 2 weeks, repeat step 4 to test for ammonia content in A and B and record the final readings. So looking at the results, we find that in container A, at the start of the experiment, the reading of ammonia is 3. At the end, it's only 1. Whereas for container B, the reading of ammonia remains the same at the beginning and end of the experiment, and that is 3. So this shows us that in container A, the reading of ammonia has reduced from 3 to 1. And so this proves the effectiveness of the water spinach to absorb the ammonia from the soil. So discussion. The soil sample is dried before the experiment begins to remove the water content and to get an accurate mass of dry soil. All right, in order to measure the mass of dry soil correctly, 2.5 kilograms for each container. Now, the significance of using water spinach in this experiment is so that it can treat the soil by absorbing the ammonia from the soil. Right, so this will reduce the amount of ammonia in the soil. Right, that's all for this lesson. Thanks for viewing, and please do share, like, and subscribe. So goodbye for now.